Hey everybody, it's Kellen Cash here, and I have a new video. I want to talk and debunk the propaganda that Africans don't like African Americans and vice versa. That's a wicked propaganda myth from the pit of hell, and I really want to share some light on that subject. So, to start, let's just go with Africans not liking African Americans, okay? You can see this stat just like I can see it. There were 2.1 million African immigrants living in the United States in 2015. That's an increase, and if you go ahead and read, you'll see it has always increased. All right? And when Africans come over here, usually it's for school, and most of them work at the same time. The very privileged may not, but most have to work just because, you know, if a man doesn't work or a woman doesn't work, she doesn't eat. So they come over here and they work. And they work alongside the community, whatever community they're in. They're very versatile. Healthcare is a big thing. I don't know 2.1 million Africans, but I know a lot of Africans that I've never heard them say, we don't like African Americans. Never. Now, if anything, I've heard Africans not understand how some Americans won't go to school or won't excel in their job and then try to own it. And of course, like everybody, nobody likes a leech. And somebody who is, you know, second, third generation living off the system and doesn't want anything better and can buy Jordans and Prada and knock off Gucci, but, you know, has a food stamp card. But I haven't even heard Africans get on folks like that. They just don't understand it. I don't like those type of people personally. And not that I disregard them and throw them in the trash, but we try to help them. We try to hire them. We try to get them skills. So that can debunk that right there. Now, we're not going to go through every, you know, issue that Africans and African Americans have, because sometimes this thing gets religious. You know, you can go from the certain sects of the Hebrew Israelites, and they'll have a different opinion on Africans, whether they accept them. Some Hebrew Israelites go over to Africa. Some don't think, you know, whatever. I'm not an expert in Hebrew Israelite theology, but you know, but I want to debunk the myth because African Americans, for some reason, and I think it's because of movies, at least when I came up, Boys in the Hood, when in the beginning when he said, you know, I'm not African, you are African, an African booty snatcher or sniffer, whatever he said, right? It was ignorant. And it's movies like that. It's coming up on Comic View, and different elements like that, where the African accent even is funny to some people. To Americans, all Americans, accents sometimes are weird, because even though this is a melting pot, many people assimilate, many people accents changes, just like your accent, my accent would change being in another country. But somehow the African accent and many accents in America seem like people are dumb. And you talk to like doctors, rocket scientists, mathematicians, and people think they're not as smart because of their accent. And that ignorance comes from the last time that I checked, 70% of Americans not having passports. So, and that's all American, no matter the color, you know, whatever. So, you know, in the African American community, the numbers are probably much higher. But there's a lot of Africans here, and you need to get to know an African. You need to get a passport and take a trip. Because a lot of times when Black Americans do travel, when we do travel outside of the country, first place we go is Europe or the Caribbean. And there's a reason for that, because it's cheap. They have so many deals to Europe and the Caribbean that they just, you know, push in your face. But there are deals to Africa. My first trip to Africa, it cost me, and I flew from London. I knew I was going to spend some time in London already with a friend, and it was altogether about a $1,500 trip. You know, I've gotten trips, and this was back in the day, but the prices, you can still get a deal. One of my friends flew to Africa. I think she did a $300 round trip, but I got my round trip one time to London for $550, and it was just, you know, dropping the bucket to go to Africa after that. And I was in grad school, I believe, at the time. So it's, you know, so that's that. But I have some other stats too. You know, because African Americans, you can't dislike Africans. You even if you had a bad experience with one, you don't know enough. You don't know enough Africans, I'm sure, if you have an issue with Africans, because we're all the same people. You know, we just might call things different things, prepare foods different ways, but we're all the same people. Please believe that. So I wanted to look too how many African Americans are in Ghana, because there's this big, you know, laws are changing in Ghana. More and more African Americans are being able to get dual citizenship or just give up their American citizenship. So right here it says 3,000 African Americans approximately, and you know, people of Caribbean descent live in Ghana, and that's a population of, you know, 26 million. So it's a very small population, but Ghana has even a council. It's called the African American Society in Ghana, something like that. Google that real quick, and if you can't find it, tell me in the comments and questions you can't find it. I'll put a link up and throw it in the description box if you guys can't find it on your own. But Africa is booming right now, and China and America are going head to head trying to get a piece of that African land grab, and they're getting it for cheap, thousands of dollars. And you could too, if you connect with people who are connected, and it's all about your network. But 3,000 African Americans, and there's even documentaries on this if you look on YouTube, and the people are happy. They're not dealing with police beating them or the kids up. They're not dealing with the wicked raping of women. You know, I'm not trying to say Africa is nirvana, but there's just certain things you don't have to deal with. And if you even look at Dynas Demir, that brother has so much footage on his YouTube. You need to just go through it and see, because he goes about so many times a year for the past 8 years. He's been like 4 times last year that I know of, and it was late in the year, and he's going shortly. So, you know, we have a community out there. It's just, do you want to get tapped into it? I also wanted to see how many African Americans live in Nigeria. And that, you know, that's not really information that I could pop up. You know, and there's approximates and this and that, but you really got to go see Africa. But let's say this, right? We know China's in Africa, you know, and the U.S. has so many secret military bases. This is privileged information. So many secret military bases that for the longest, they never even let you know were there. Your tax dollars were there. So what does that tell you? They're planning on something. They're planning for them to get their foot in the ground. They know Africa needs, you know, certain skill set, but they're hiring the Chinese. They're hiring their own, and they're not using us. You know, I say us black folk. I mean, I can easily say I am African, and if an African, you know, had an issue with that, you know, you don't know me. I know where I come from. I know my roots. You know, just that name, African American, puts me in, you know, it's like best of both worlds if you see it like that. But they're planning and getting real estate, and by the time African Americans say, oh, Eureka, Africa, guess what? They're going to be selling it to you at 10 times the price that they bought it at. You can look at Namibia right now, places like that. You know, not Nambia, but That's a Trump joke, but everyone can make a mistake, you know. But you just don't think your president will, like that. But everyone can. All of us have. But you can look at that and how high the prices are. There's also a YouTube channel. We've had her on the Advise show, and you know, I think it's called African American in Africa. And you can YouTube that. The information's there. It's just, do you want to grab it? Do you care enough? Now, somebody is going to say, oh, I don't like an African for, you know, they're this or they're that. Let me just talk about Nigerians real quick while I have pulled this up. Nigerians are the most successful Africans in education in this country. When Nigerians come, and I have Nigerian, Cameroonian blood. When Nigerians come here, they come to hustle. They come to get it. You know, doctors with two jobs and a private practice on some just real hardworking people. And so, and look, it says 4% have a doctorate. And that was in 2006. You know, it's only gone up because they've seen their brothers or uncles from, you know, the 60s, 70s, maybe even before that, winning. And so they say, okay, this is how you win. They get that education. And many Africans do from around the continent. There's some that focus more on, you know, the taxi business or business. But, you know, everything's not for everybody. But we all need to control our narrative because we need to debunk this lie that we don't like each other. You know, you hear so many African Americans talking about, well, what women won't do as far as cooking and cleaning. And to an African, that's second nature. Even to a privileged African, like, that's what you just got to do. Can't have a dirty house. There's still those traditional roles. And if you have a problem with them traditional roles, you are in the right place in America. You probably need to be in Seattle, San Francisco, New York, and, you know, you can be whatever you want. But for those who want that traditional and they don't mind working hard and they want their woman to be traditional, Africa and African is the place to be. My last video on should black men go to Brazil, man, it's like every week somebody comments on that one, and I talk about the documentaries and whatnot. We have options. We don't have to be getting abused by this system, marginalized. We can get up and go. And if all of us got a piece of land in another country, maybe you go to a couple places in Africa, it's not for you. But there are, you know, maybe Black Guatemala. Yeah, Black Guatemala is for you. Black Venezuela, Black Colombia. If you like black folk, if you don't like black people and being around, no, you know, America and is great, and even, you know, Europe is great. But even if we bought places in Europe, even if we bought places in Mexico, you know, I like Europe. I like Europe so, you know, so much. You know, it's a beautiful place. But I really want to do something groundbreaking in Africa and have more business out there. That's really where the passion is. So if you agree, if you don't agree, put your questions, comments, like, subscribe, share this content. There's going to be more to come because I got to get this information out to you. I got to get this information out and show you how you can do it, even on a limited budget. Whenever I went and traveled overseas, and I've been to about 10 countries, maybe more, it wasn't because I had a $100,000, you know, bag to go do that. I did it on a budget, like I explained my plane tickets, and I met friends. And my first, you know, trip to Europe it cost me about $1,500 as well. And so, you know, like, subscribe, share, ask questions. Let's get a movement going that we have options so we don't seem like a complaining people, so that we don't seem like, you know, just a bunch of whiners, and that we don't know. We know how to build cities, empires, countries. Empires, we've built them. So do all what I just, you know, aforementioned, and there'll be more to come. 2018, we're here. God bless. Stay tight. Peace.